Waterworld. Let's dive in. So Waterworld was released in 1995, directed by Kevin Reynolds. Stars Kevin Costner, Dennis Hopper, and Jean Triplehorn. Famous for having like a nightmare production, going way over budget and gaining a really bad reputation before he was even released in theaters, resulting in a really poor box office haul. So the synopsis goes as follows. So in a future where the ice caps have melted and the earth is fully covered in water, a mutated man known only as the Mariner, played by Costner, is trying to survive in this impossible world. He battles with a band of jet ski riding pirate types called Smokers, led by a cycloptic and deliciously villainous Dennis Hopper. Our main character comes across a curious child with a mysterious tramp stamp tattoo, which may or may not, make her an actual GPS that leads to the rumored dry land. So Costner tries to protect the child and find his own way to dry land in a wild movie that could easily be called Mad Mast Fury Boat.
Nice.
So there's a ton of stuff to talk about here. So we're going to start with our just overall thoughts, what your relationship maybe is with this movie. Did you see it when it came out, that kind of thing, and how you feel about it now. So when did you first see it? Probably just as a child, as you said a while ago,
Yeah. So not in theaters, but, we got it. I want to say my brother got it on VHS for like a birthday or something. So it was a new release on video. So if it was 1995 in theaters, I would say maybe I felt like back in the day it took like 6 to 8 months after the theaters for us to get it on, the peasants to get it on VHS tape.
Yeah.
So it was probably 96, right? Putting me in that 10-year-old range, and I don't know, I thought it was cool. As a 10-year-old, I'm not looking for the acting or the deep story or I'm just looking at like, this is insane. This
cool.
guy in the first scene drank his own pee. Okay. And then these like jet skis are like flying around.
That's your definition of cool, Jeff?
Yeah. Like, look at this guy. Look how badass he is. He's drinking his own pee. And there's scene where they're like underwater, right? And the jet skis are like waiting, and then they like shoot out of the water.
Yeah,
like,
that was cool.
It had a lot of cool visual stuff.
Yeah.
As a 10-year-old. But I do remember but I'm also as a 10-year-old not listening to, Robert and Ebert or whoever the people are, right? I'm not listening to them. I'm going, that's cool. But as I got older, I remember hearing all the stuff about like Waterworld, this huge flop, it lost all this kind of money. And then I was kind of like, okay. And I did see it again in like high school and going, all right, it's not good. Like it's not great. There are just holes in the movie and, it just seems like it flopped.
Yeah.
And then I probably didn't see it again since then until recently when we watched it. And I think now watching it, I'm like, it's not the worst movie.
It holds up better than I imagined.
Not bad. Yeah. Like there's some goofy stuff in it, but I'm like, it's not. I've seen way worse movies.
For sure. Yeah. It doesn't fall into that, like, I'm a B movie and I know it.
Right.
Kind of scenario for me. And I probably have a similar trajectory with this movie as you did, watch it as when it first came out, probably not in theaters, but at home. And then maybe not since. Like I probably saw it on bits and pieces on TV here and there, as you do. But I don't think I sat down and watched it all the way through again until just like, I watched it twice over the last month, I want to say, just to in preparation for this. And it's more fun than I thought it was going to be. And it's not, I'm with you. It's not a good movie, but it's also not terrible.
It's not.
And the production value and there's enough cool stuff in there that I was entertained and I had fun with it. So it's definitely not it definitely holds up better than its reputation, right?
Yeah,
because
I agree.
This, I'm going to go through a bit of a production breakdown here because there's a lot of really fascinating stuff that went down with this movie.
Yeah, you sent me this list and I was blown away by a lot of the stuff. So I'm excited to talk about it.
For sure. So we'll go through some of this stuff, but like the movie, got a terrible reputation for being a really bad production and a problematic production with like injuries and going over budget and all of these egos clashing. And that doesn't happen very often, but all of that leaked into the public and into, you know, the eyes and ears of not only publics, but critics and like, you know, the media outlets and all that stuff. And basically the movie was a flop before it even was released. It didn't have a chance for that reason. You know, there's more modern, examples of that. I want to say Rogue One, ran into that. Solo, a Star Wars story. You know, there's a couple of Star Wars movies that had that happen recently.
Sure. But this is, you know, this is also in a different time period, right? In the mid 90s, it's harder to get that information out. Like right now,
sure. Everybody
knows if somebody picks their nose right on set. So it's like that kind of stuff easy flies out and people have access to the internet to blow it up. But 95, right. It was like to have that hit the news in that way.
It was a much bigger deal for sure.
Yeah.
Yeah, 100%. So I have a list of things here. I'll try to fly through it as quickly as I can, but we'll have some fun with it too. So the script bounced around Hollywood for a while, but wasn't gaining any traction. Studios seemed to like the concept, but the script itself was kind of a mess. It did start as a B movie. And then when Costner and his group got a hold of it, they wanted to make it into not a B movie and make it an actual great, you know,
sure.
You know,
big production, right? Put some money into
action
it, yep.
flick and put some money into it. But then the studios were kind of scared of it for that reason, which made sense. So he ended up, Costner ended up with the screenplay and was basically his star power that pushed the movie through into production. Because at that time, Kevin Costner was a huge star. So from 87 to 92, he goes on an insane run of movies, including The Untouchables, Bull Durham, Field of Dreams, Dances with Wolves, and Robin Hood, Prince of Thieves, JFK, The Bodyguard, including winning some Oscars in there as a director, producer, and a lead actor of
That's
Dances
a great
with
set
Wolves.
of movies. That's a great handful of years. Yeah.
So 1993, 94, when they're like making this movie, his star power is enough to be like, okay, we'll put some money behind this. And that's more or less what happened. Kevin Costner famously went to Steven Spielberg asking for some help, to say like some advice. And, you know, I'm shooting this movie, that takes place completely in water. And obviously Steven Spielberg, having made Jaws, which was another famously, disaster of a production, went to Steven Spielberg and said, what are some, pieces of advice you might have? And Spielberg said, don't shoot in actual water. Don't shoot in the ocean. Do it on close, set. Yeah. You do it on set, you fill, tanks and pools, and you do it that way. And it's very doable. In 1995, we had the technology to do that. Plenty of movies had done that. But Costner was determined to shoot it in the actual ocean. So he ignored that advice. The script was plagued with multiple rewrites. They didn't even have the script finalized in time for principal photography. So they moved forward without a complete script, hiring a young Joss Whedon to be on-set writer. Ultimately, it sounds like Costner just pushed all his ideas through into the film, and Whedon didn't really have much actual say in the script. At one point, Whedon had said, the only thing that could save this thing is a complete rewrite. So there's not much you can do without completely halting production. So he just did what he could to punch up some of the dialogue. But ultimately, Whedon was kind of pushed aside and didn't have much of a say at all. They insisted in building massive practical sets that cost millions of dollars, and the big main set, which is that barge, not the oil tanker, but the horseshoe shaped, circular shaped barge.
Oh, sure, yeah.
So that cost multi-millions of dollars to build and to maintain, and then took millions of dollars worth of damage during a hurricane. So there was
we set it up in the ocean. What do you think is going to happen?
Yeah. And it's funny because I don't think I wrote that here in these notes, but the location where they chose to shoot had this Hawaiian, because they shot in Hawaii, off the coast of Hawaii,
Okay.
and it had this Hawaiian name. Later find out that this word in Hawaiian means high winds, lots of winds. It's one of the windiest places in the world.
No, who would have guessed?
And this is where they decided to shoot. So multiple massive storms cost millions of dollars to the sets, halting production. They had to like rebuild that barge. One of his boats sunk in one of these storms, and they had to like actually find a way to get it out of the water. So that halted production as well. The two female leads almost drowned when that craft sunk. Coster himself got caught in a storm on the scene where he had to climb to the very, very top of his boat into like the little perch there.
Okay.
He was up there and he was tied down so that he couldn't fall.
Sure.
And then a storm rolls in, and it's not safe to send anybody up to take him down. It's not safe for him to unclasp himself and come down. So he literally just hung on for dear life for like an hour or two while the storm passed, and he was just stuck up there. So it's the scene, I think, where the helicopters flying around it.
Okay.
And so I think that's the scene that like happened.
What all these things just could have been avoided with
just listen to Spielberg, man. He's Steven Spielberg.
Yeah. I guess when you go back and not, like 2020 is,
he's more Steven Spielberg now than he was then, but
yeah, still, I get we're looking back, but like you did it all kind of for nothing.
Yeah.
It sucks. It sucks. It's not like you were like, all right, well, let's put $1 billion like Avatar did. Let's make $1 billion movie and then we'll make a $5 billion profit. This is like, you did all this stuff. You almost killed a bunch of people, and then you kind of flopped.
Yeah, for sure. So a stuntman was rushed to Honolulu Hospital after suffering decompression sickness on set. So I think that's when you go down.
You go down too fast, or come up.
I think it's when you come up too fast.
Okay.
Because your lungs have to like adjust to the pressure or something. I'm not a doctor and I don't know the details of this, but it's literally like a thing that could kill you. So he was rushed to the hospital, and then like, it's one of these things where once you cross the threshold of like, oh, it's not going to kill you, then you're pretty much fine again. But it's something that he had to kind of fight through. And once he crossed that threshold of whatever's happening in his body, he was fine, and he actually was returned on set a few days later, despite almost having died. So I guess it's one of those things where if you don't die from it, you recover pretty quickly.
Sure.
But it is a life-threatening thing that could have been a big issue. Yeah. So there were no bathrooms on that big barge set thing. So people had to be shuttled to the mainland on a regular basis if they had to go number 2. And if you had to go number 1, well, I'm sure they figured that out pretty easily.
Fish pee in the ocean too. It's fine.
That's right. The budget kept growing and growing. Initially, the studio had greenlit the production at around $90 million and eventually ballooned to over $150 million. Adjusted for inflation, that's almost $310 million today.
That's crazy.
So that's the cost of like Marvel movies are basically
is that where it sits? What are one of those? I was going to do some Googling for like average cost of the Marvel movies, but
yeah, they're $200 to $300 million.
Okay.
For the production. We're not talking advertising and everything else that they do.
Of course.
Yeah. Depending on the movie, Ant-Man cost probably a lot less than the Avengers. So there's a spectrum there.
Okay.
For sure. But, $200 to $300 million for the massive ones. So the word of all these issues, as I said, got out into Hollywood and eventually into general movie-going audiences, and the result was underwhelming box office return. And the movie is rumored to have lost over $100 million when all was said and done. That being said, I know for sure that like that was the initial number.
Yeah.
When you factor in DVD sales and being played on TV, merchandising, whatever else, all the other things, and ultimately, I think the movie ended up being more or less even. Is what I heard. There's no like confirmed numbers, but that's kind of the general thought now is that 10, 15 years later, it was able to more or less make its money back, but it didn't make any money, and the headache that it caused with with the studio and everything else was
probably
not worth it.
Yeah, probably not.
Yeah. So that's kind of just the production background. Kevin Costner insisted on so he rented or had a villa, I guess, and then was rumored to have been cheating on his wife at the time with one of the staff members of the villa. That turned out to be probably fake. But he was going through a divorce at the time and ended up settling and paying his now ex-wife like $80 million. And then the other thing that happened with this is that at one point, the studio was either going to pull the plug or cut a massive section of the movie or do something. And Costner was just not having it because he was the main creative force behind this movie. He was not the director, but he was a producer and, for all intents and purposes was sort of kind of co-directing, him being the main creative force of this film. So anyways, they wanted to cut something or cut the production or something. So he basically, gave up his the back end, basically, like I'm trying to remember what the name of it is, but royalties. So he gave up his royalties, I believe, or possibly his upfront money and just took royalties. Either way, he put up a ton of his own money just to get this movie made. So between that and the divorce, he basically gave up over $100 million.
He was spiraling.
Over the course of a couple of months. Insisted on staying at this villa, which cost a ton of money for the production, and also insisted on using his own yacht to get to and from the production. So it just seems like he was a little bit of a drama queen with everything.
Yeah.
And then one of the not a cast member, but one key part of the production lived in Honolulu or lived nearby and would come to set in his jet ski every day. And it was something like 60 miles.
What?
Yeah. And then one day, he would just leave in the morning and then, get there and do his day and then come back. Well, one morning he didn't show up. And they thought, he must be sick or something. Well, it turns out he ran out of gas and he was, in the ocean, in the middle of the ocean, sitting there on his jet ski, waiting for people to realize. Well, it was near the end of the day or, midday when they're they decided, I guess, to reach out to his wife. And his wife said, no, he left this morning. He should be there. And so they sent out a search party to try to find this guy.
Find him, obviously.
Yeah, they found him, but he was sitting on his jet ski in the middle of the ocean. Probably very thirsty and hot. But God. Yeah, just this is tons of stories. This is only scraping the surface. I just went for the most interesting stuff, but if you do the research, there's documentaries and podcasts and YouTube videos with just tons more stuff of this nightmare production. But let's dive into the movie. We won't spend too much time on it, but I think the most interesting part was some of this, this production stuff, but
it's almost like the movie shines in its failure.
I liked it. Yeah, absolutely. It's become,
is it cult classic? Might not be the right word, but how many other flop movies have people done, like you just said, podcasts and documentaries and YouTube videos on? Right. This has to shine in its failure in a lot of different ways.
For sure.
But yeah,
I think if it didn't have all this, 100%. If it didn't have there's no way to know this, an off time machine, but I want to say that if it didn't have all these production issues, it probably would have done a little bit better, and it probably would be fine. It wouldn't have this reputation of being this huge, terrible flop and all of that. It would have just been another movie that slightly underperformed.
Yeah, but would it be forgettable and no one would talk about it? Is it?
No, I think it's doing enough interesting things that it would be. It would still be in the zeitgeist. We would still you could say the words "Waterworld" to a random Joe on the street, and he would know that it was a Kevin Costner movie. Mm-hmm. It certainly is that now, but I think it still would have been otherwise. There's a lot of fun stuff here in this movie, despite a lot of bad stuff as well.
Yeah.
So for me, the production design is the main thing that takes this movie from being absolute dog shit to being like kind of okay and fun to watch. Like the design of his ship is so freaking cool.
Yeah, it's cool.
I'm trying to remember what it's called. It's like a trimaran or something like that, because it has three.
The three little floaters or whatever the hell those things are called.
Pontoons or whatever you call them. So that thing is cool. And like all the scenes where he's running around on his boat and flying off of things and then cranking the thing and then
tipping it.
Yeah, I mean, all that stuff is so cool. I'm like totally on board for that.
Like, this is cool. Well, I'll jump into that one fight scene where they, fight scene, for lack of a better, where they, Dennis Hopper's got his people under the water and they have the bodies kind of waving, right? They take that ship over, kill all the people on it, and they're like faking the waving. Just thinking about, all right, they have the big ship, they have the jet skis, they have the ammo. He's got this, what kind of looks like on the surface, this rickety old boat.
Yeah.
But the fact that he can like move it like that and work it like that is just cool. That's like a cool part. It's like, it's like the Mad Max stuff, right? Where it's just cool to see someone take what looks like a hunk of junk and beat the bad guys,
Absolutely. Yeah. And when he's flying around and cranking things and putting up masts and making moves on that thing and then using the projectile to hit the helicopter and doing all these things. And there's some neat storytelling stuff there too. Yeah. Because like you said, all these like jet skis are under the water and they have these breathing tubes. And then like that feels like Dune stuff where they're like under the sand and, it's inventive, fun stuff. And equally in that same moment, there's some stupid shit. For example, why do they need to grab dead guys and pretend that they're waving? Yeah. Like, why do they need to hook them up like marionettes? Can't they just pretend to be the people and wave?
Yeah. They don't know that you're specifically the bad. Yeah. And I think that comes out what I always like watching it again and Dennis Hopper is great in this movie. And I honestly wish, I wish he had more screen time. I wish the movie was, maybe Costner wanted his face on the screen more, but Dennis Hopper, goofy villain, is great. Because he doesn't come across as like dark evil, but he's like goofy evil, and it's awesome. He's got that freaking eyeball. Like, they stick that weird eyeball in it, and they're like, it looks great, and the kid's like, it looks like crap. Yeah, and it's like, this does look like crap. But that's hilarious, and maybe that's where like, I picture him being this goofy villain to be like, let's have the dead people wave. Yeah. And then all of his henchmen are like, okay, we'll just do that.
Okay. Yeah, they're just dumb. Yeah. Maybe that's what it is.
I want him more in that movie.
100%. Yeah. And there's weird tonal shifts in the movie where like anything with Kevin Costner, he's like dark and brooding and it feels like he's trying to win an Oscar. He's trying to like, be
he's in the
serious.
Midst of it, so
anything that happens out in the ocean with him and Triple Horn's character and the little girl feels like one tone, and then when you get like the mad scientist guy, or when you get Dennis Hopper or Jack Black or any of these other characters, they're cartoon characters.
Yeah.
Right? They're very cartoony and mustache twirling evil, and it's fun, and I'm on board for it. But then you get the scenes with the Kevin Costner characters, and some of the other scenes just don't. Yeah, they feel like they're in a different movie.
Yeah, I think you're right. Maybe that's what it is. Because there's times where like, Kevin Costner almost like sells that girl to this guy. You know what I mean? Like that's a serious scene. And then 20 minutes later, he's teaching her how to swim.
Yes,
which is also 100%. Absurd. You don't live in a place called Waterworld and not know how to swim. Okay, I'm not buying that this 9-year-old girl, 10-year-old girl doesn't know how to swim. Okay,
it's literally the only thing that you need to do to live.
Yeah, like, she's the only person in this entire fictional
you need
thing
food, water, and you need to be able to swim. Otherwise, you're dead. Those are the three things.
Yeah.
And there's like moments. There's at least one, maybe two moments where he's like totally fine, and you buy it that he's going to leave them for dead. He's like, doesn't matter. The girl's dead. the woman's dead, doesn't matter. I'm over it. He's moving on. And then moments later, he's like just saving them or doing something different. So there's like these massive character tonal shifts and tonal shifts in the actual tone and vibe of the movie.
Yeah. But like you said, that
different
that struggle
movies.
is only with his character, and no one else has that development. And it seems weird that he would be the only person that would have that.
Yeah.
But
there's some weird stuff in this movie. Everything with that mad scientist guy, as much as I kind of like his performance, was it really just turn it upside down? Was that the solution? You didn't think of that? You didn't think of like just turning it?
Yeah. It's like, oh, they just drew it upside. Oh, okay. Oh, we turned it upside down. It's not like we were playing some we're playing some exit game, or unlock, trying to like, oh, just turn it around. Oh, duh.
Yeah. And then like this mysterious girl with a tattoo, like, is that seems weird too. It's not even like played as a birthmark.
Right.
Like a mysterious, magical, oh, this person has a birthmark and she's rumored to be the one to blah, blah, blah. No, she has a tattoo. Like, who's giving tattoos?
When she was little. Right?
She's what, 6? 8?
Yeah. Yeah, and then what does that end up being, like,
so
her parents
fast at
or
that
something?
age, the tattoo would probably be all morphed and
yeah. Is that how it ended? Like the parents ended up tattooing her or something?
I don't remember seeing that.
I don't know. How did she get the tattoo?
That's another weird thing, and I don't know. And like, why would you even do that? Like, if you're a parent or a guardian, or like, were they going for a ride and they didn't want to get lost and make sure they could find their way back? I don't know.
Yeah. Why couldn't it just be a birthmark, something?
But I think if I had to pick one thing, like the production design is the thing that really carries this whole thing for me. Every new location, every new vehicle, every new character, everything looks cool. It looks lived in.
It does.
It looks like it belongs in that world. And I'm a big fan of the creative use of all these different things. I'm trying to think of examples, but the machine that he uses to turn his pee into water is pretty neat. The rules which they live in this world, when you approach somebody, there was
to trade or something, or to like
trading,
acknowledge each other
stuff.
and trade. And you going to that small village where he first meets, the woman and her daughter, of just like what they need, and then like the whole bartering system of like, all right, how much is this? Half of whatever you have. Like, it's there's not a price, right? This is what you're going to give me, half of what you have. It seems legit, right? It seems real. It doesn't seem, there's not, again, yes, he has gills and stuff too, but it's not like they've created like a fish world person, like a fish world universe that they're walking around in, or he's some colony of fish people, right?
It still feels somewhat grounded.
Yeah, it does.
Yeah, and if we're like 300 years into the future, you could potentially believe that, people would start getting gills. Maybe, I don't know. Like, it's somewhat plausible for a movie, right? Like, I'll buy that. I'm totally fine with that.
Yeah.
Famously, there is, I guess not famously, but there is another situation where they had to edit the gills for a specific shot, because when they were previewing it for audiences before releasing it, everybody started laughing, and apparently it looked like a vagina.
Oh, nice.
The gills in his ear.
That's great. Like, oh, well, we're going to have to change that.
Yeah. So like, they ended up going to another close up that they had of the ear that didn't look like a vagina, and they used that shot and manipulated it to make it look like, let's not have vagina ears. Let's not.
Maybe that can be the whole, like, he has a vagina on his neck, and they just make that the entire movie.
Yeah, I'd watch that. And then another thing that I thought was sort of strange is, like, if he literally has the ability to go and get sand at any point, because he knew exactly where that city was, the underwater city. First underwater city, there's the connection.
There you go, boom, there it is.
It's funny because I when we chose this pairing, I had no recollection of that underwater city. Of that
I
city
knew that's
that was
where I
literally
remember
underwater.
him getting the dirt. That was one of the things that I kind of remember from like, because I thought a similar thing. I'm like, he should just get all the dirt, and he would be like the richest Waterworld thing.
Yeah, because he did the dirt trading thing early in the movie, and then later on, which again I had not remembered, goes and gets more dirt, and I'm thinking,
he, like, takes
why
her
doesn't
down,
he
right?
just do that over and
be
over
the dirt
again?
Guy.
He could be the dirt guy, and then he would have everything that he could possibly need if he can.
Yeah.
Because the one time he went with one little thing of dirt, he got tons of stuff.
Right.
Tons of
shocked.
water and all these things. Everybody was shocked with the dirt. So that seemed kind of like a weird story choice. There's just tons of weird story choices.
Right.
But primarily the one that really, the thing that I had the hardest time swallowing on the story front was the whole idea that multiple occasions he's like, I'm a man on my own. I'm for myself. I don't give a shit what happens to these people. Literally leaves them for dead. And then, and for no reason, he didn't have like a near-death experience or like a situation that would change his mind. He just decided that he was going to go and save them and help for no reason, and put his life in danger when moments before he didn't care at all. That was probably the one big story beat that I really rolled my eyes and I thought, okay, really got to suspend some disbelief here if I'm going to enjoy this ride.
Sure.
Which ultimately, I will say, I did. I had fun with it, and I think if you can set aside some fairly bad characters and bad story, bad story beats and character decisions, there's some fun to be had here. There's definitely some Mad Max Fury Road chases and scenes and action sequences. I think all of that stuff worked really well. Anytime that story wasn't being told, then it was just fun actions
or scenes or
I was having a good time, and there was some neat stuff there for sure.
Yeah, and I think as I get a little just older, sometimes I just watch stuff for just fun. Like, it's just entertainment. Like, I don't want to critique things all the time. It's just exhausting to over critique them. And this movie, I think it fell into a time like 95 movies they were awesome, right? Like this was, I don't necessarily want to call it the golden age of movies, but it's damn close. Like, people were hitting home runs from 1990 through the late 90s. Like, people were hitting home runs, and box offices were huge, and people were going to the movies. And then this just didn't hit, and then it's gonna hold that reputation forever.
Yeah, definitely. The reputation definitely took over in this case, and I don't think it's necessarily warranted. Maybe in that moment when the movie came out, it was a bigger deal. But as far as I'm concerned, if you go and mention Waterworld to Joe Blow on the street, he's probably going to tell you, "Oh yeah, that famous flop," And ultimately, if you release that movie today, today is maybe not a great example, because the post-COVID, the film industry is struggling, and theaters, the box office, theater, all that stuff. But if you had released this movie before the pandemic, just before the pandemic, right, quote unquote, today, and not in 1995, it would probably do fine. It would probably do fine at the box office if it was free of all the drama. And ultimately, you know what? I'll argue that movie did come out a bunch of times in the last 15 years in the form of Fast and Furious movies. Dumb movies with dumb characters making dumb decisions that makes no sense. But because there's great action and it's well directed, the masses come out for it because they like Vin Diesel talking about family. I don't know.
You could have even swung it, and we're in a time now where people will seek out to watch these B movies, to watch Sharknado and to watch these things. You could have swung that movie in that direction too, and been like, here's what I got. I got this silly, goofy movie where, a Kevin Costner character is just going to fly around and run into these raiders. It could have went B movie route too, in a more modern time, and probably done just as well on, Netflix or something, right?
100%. Yeah, for sure. Okay. So, I'm going to get your rating real quick, and then we're going to play a quick game and wrap things up. So for Jason gave it a 2.5 out of 10, or sorry, out of 5. We do like the Letterboxd 5 stars thing.
Yeah.
So Jason gave it a 2.5 stars on Letterboxd. I have it as a 3. I think I had a little bit more fun with it. I think Jason maybe had a little bit more hard time swallowing some of the bad aspects of the movie. And there are just as many, if not bad, aspects of the film as there are good and interesting things. But I'm totally fine just going along for the ride and having fun watching Dennis Hopper and Jack Black be these crazy villains.
Yeah.
And then
Man, I just want a whole movie with them.
Ultimately, the production value is what pulled it up out of the toilet for me, is just like the boats, the sets, the inventiveness of how they use these things, the balloon, the hot air balloon, all these different things I think were really well made, and I had a lot of fun checking that stuff out. Jeff, what was your final thoughts on? I
think I'll go with I'm going to go with Jason and go with a 2.5. Although I do think fair. I probably liked it better than him. But I think, looking at 2.5 out of 5 is a 50%. I think they swung and missed on about half the movie.
Yeah, you're probably right. Yeah.
And just like you said, like, oh man, this character, why can't this girl swim? Like these little details that were just missed constantly. And you're like,
not thought through enough. Yeah.
Can you just tweak it up a little bit? Like you didn't tighten the screws on a lot of the stuff, but on the other side, it's fun to just watch.
If you turn your brain off.
Yeah. I would have loved to see this movie in like an IMAX, right? Like the lush blue ocean and just like the sound. It would have been cool to see in that experience. Mm-hmm. Because again, I think back to when I watched it at 10 years old, and I'm like, look at these things. Look how cool everything is. This guy's got one eyeball and he's got one sticking out. Like this is fun. So like at the core, it is just like it's a goofy, fun movie to watch. But it has some problems, and reading through some of the production breakdown notes were just hilarious. Yeah. So I'm going to stick with a 2.5.
Yeah. It's weird that a film can be so meta too, because when I watched this, I had gone through all my research already, right? My recent watch. So watching the movie post knowing all this stuff about the production added a layer of fun to it.
Yeah, I bet
for
it would.
Me.
Yeah.
So there's this like weird meta thing where I'm thinking about the filmmaking and the craziness that happened.
You're like, that's when that happened, or there's that scene, there's that set. Yeah.
A little bit of added fun to it. And I don't know if it's fair or not to add that to the.
No, it does. It's your rating.
When, you have fun with it however you want, right? And
exactly.
I think it's the same thing with board gaming. We talked about different genres and what you like and don't like. It all plays into it. All right, we're gonna play a quick game, Jeff. All right. And it's gonna be called. I'm making this title up as we go here.
I like it.
But Waterworld or not Waterworld?
Oh shit! Okay.
So these are quotes from water movies.
Okay.
Some of which are taken from Waterworld and some of which are not.
Water movies. Okay, got it.
Okay, so here's the quote. In the end, water always wins.
Ooh.
Waterworld or not Waterworld?
I think that's from Waterworld.
Okay, it is not from Waterworld. It is from The Day After Tomorrow. Roland Emmerich movie from 2004.
All right.
Okay, here's another one. Quote, the ocean is full of secrets, some better left undiscovered.
Ooh, that seems like mysterious. This ocean is full of secrets. Some left undiscovered.
Some better left undiscovered.
Is that like right when he maybe is going down to the something?
Well, that's the fun thing is you could fit probably all these quotes into this
I
movie if you wanted to. Yeah.
I'm gonna get all of these wrong. I'm gonna say this is not from Waterworld.
Correct. This is from The Abyss, James Cameron, 1989.
Yeah.
Okay. You and your freak of a child are going to die out here. There's nothing left.
That's gotta be from Waterworld.
That is from Waterworld.
Okay. You freak of a child.
You have to fight for your place in this world.
Ooh. That seems... Man, that could be in anything. That could be in Mad Max. That could be... I'm going to say this is a Waterworld quote.
Should have went with your gut. It's from Mad Max Fury Road.
Blew that one.
Okay, here's another one. Don't just stand there. Kill something.
Oh, that's got to be a Dennis Hopper quote. That's from Waterworld.
That is a Dennis Hopper quote.
Yeah. See, that's the movie. Dennis Hopper's the movie.
Yes, he is the movie. if this movie was like 20% more Dennis Hopper and 20% less Kevin Costner, this thing would be a masterpiece. Okay, quote. When you're out here, you're on your own. No one's coming to save you.
That could be from anything too. Pick a disaster movie. That could be from that, a Scary Movie company made that disaster movie. It could be from that. When you're out here, maybe Kevin Costner said it. Maybe that was his deep monologue.
When you're out here, you're on your own. No one's coming to save you.
No one's coming to save you. Yeah, that's from. Well, we can go yes from Waterworld. Kevin Costner trying to win an Oscar.
This is from Gravity, the space movie.
Oh, it's in space. Pretty much.
Yeah, it works.
Yep.
Okay, quote, I promised myself I would never come back to this place.
Yeah, who would say that in this movie? He didn't go, he wanted to go down. I'm going to say no, not from Waterworld.
It is, in fact, from Waterworld. Kevin Costner's character says it.
Where?
I think he's talking about the trading place, the bartering place, maybe.
Ugh, maybe that's why he doesn't want all the dirt. Kevin.
Okay, it's a piece of paper. It means nothing. It's just a map.
That's from Waterworld.
It is from Waterworld.
Yeah, okay. That one I remember.
All right, I got two more for you.
All right.
Quote, he's not like us. He's a mutant.
Ooh, they do call him a mutant. That's from, I'm going to go yes, Waterworld. When he's in the cage.
That one is from The Bourne Identity.
What? I'm gonna look. I bet they say something like that. When he's up in the cage,
I'm gonna make you rewatch the movie. Going
with his, with his vagina neck in the cage. They have to do something like that. Yeah, I'm gonna rewatch.
Okay, last one. Quote: there's something off about that child. She's a real freak.
You want to say it's about her, and then it's not. You want me to think that it's about the girl. I'm gonna go no. I'm going the opposite. No, it's not from Waterworld.
You're correct. That is from The Ring.
Okay, The Ring. Man, great.
Yeah, so I guess these weren't all water movies. There's some space, some horror. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So that was my little game.
That's fun.
Yeah, so thank you, Jeff. That's going to wrap things up. Thanks for hanging out with me. This was a ton of fun. We're going to have you on again for sure.
Yeah, it's been great. Thanks.
Yeah, so any final thoughts? I guess let's give you an opportunity to maybe plug your stuff, your podcast. Tell us about the Gamecasters.
Yeah, sure. I am the Mad Boardgamer on Instagram, so just at Mad Boardgamer on Instagram. Just do, what everybody else friggin' does on Instagram, take pictures of board games and talk about it. And then I'm also on a podcast called The Gamecasters, which, I'll toot our own horn. We were nominated for a Golden Geek this past year. So
well
we're
deserved.
in the top 10 for that. Thank you. And it's a show where myself and one of my best friends, Ryan, and his wife, Natalie, Natalie, you're my friend too, who we kind of are just ourselves for 2.5 to 3 hours, and we talk about anything and everything, and then we review some board games, we play some games, we interact with the community via Instagram and Discord and stuff like that. And it's a show that is not family friendly, which I think it kind of makes us stand out a little bit, because most of the board gaming media is family friendly, and we decide to just kind of be ourselves and, say the F word here and there and make inappropriate jokes and kind of just, again, lean into who we are.
There's way more vagina necks on the Gamecasters than on Dice Camera Action.
Yes, exactly. Well put. And so if you're listening to this and you're looking for a kind of a goofy podcast that talks about board games, maybe the Gamecasters is what you're looking for.
You will know within 30 seconds whether or not it's for you. Let's put it that way.
That's everybody said that. Yep, you will know right away from the introduction.
It's just like The Boys. You've watched The Boys?
Yes. Yeah.
Yeah. So you watch like 8 minutes of that show, and you know immediately
You'll know
if that show is for you or not. Gamecasters is the same.
Yeah.
The Mad Board Gamer on Instagram, a great, an absolute must follow if you're a board game person and you're on Instagram.
Thanks.
So thank you. If you're enjoying the podcast, please take a few minutes to rate, review on whatever platform you're listening on. You can follow us on Instagram at Dice Camera Action Pod. And if you have any feedback or comments or would like to suggest a movie game pairing, email us at dicecameraactionpod@gmail.com. Thanks again, Jeff. And thank you everybody for listening. Take care.